Based on Collage's cultural performance matrix, you can see the landscape of grocery retail brands ranked on BCFQ, our proprietary measure of cultural resonance, and brand momentum. This ranking is predictive of brand favorability and purchase intent, meaning brands in the upper right are positioned to grow sales and market share, while those in the lower left are positioned to lose sales and share. What stands out immediately is a clear divide. You have a top tier of cultural powerhouses such as Walmart and Amazon. These brands are winning because they strongly align with the values, identity, and lived experiences of the consumers they're trying to reach. Then you have a group of brands that are increasingly at risk of falling out of touch with consumers, competing on commoditized features like price, location, and convenience, but not building enough trust, advocacy, or emotional connection to remain relevant in consumer lives. And then you have a smaller group of brands sitting in the middle like Target, neither winning on cultural relevance or competing strongly enough on price and convenience to compensate. So the real question is, what separates the leaders from the middle and the middle from the laggards? And here we're going to jump into the Collage platform, and we're going to start with Walmart, who, as you saw in the grid, was a top performer. One thing stands out right away. Walmart is consistently outperforming the category in multicultural audiences and generations when it comes to cultural resonance. You can see this here. They are a blue line and they're outpacing the industry average, which is this gray line behind. They are especially strong with Black consumers, and they're strong across all the multicultural segments that we're tracking. In addition to the multicultural strength, they're also very strong with the generational cohorts such as Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, and Boomers. So Walmart's winning across a broad segmentation of consumers. Their one relative gap is really the Asian consumer. And you could see this line right here where they're just not outperforming the industry. When you look at this head-to-head against Costco, it really does stand out. Winning cultural resonance with Asians is exactly where Costco is winning, highlighting a key competitive vulnerability that Costco can exploit and Walmart should close. And you could also see here the power of our BCFQ metrics. There are 6 factors that influence your cultural resonance with an audience: fit, relevance, trust, memories, and values. And here you can see that Walmart is losing to Costco on 5 out of 6, but this provides a clear picture about where Walmart needs to focus. Now let's look at Target. If you remember, Target was sitting in that uncomfortable middle, neither winning on cultural resonance nor wholly losing. At first glance, you could see Walmart looks pretty competitive. Remember, Walmart's BCFQ score was 85, Target is 82. But when you layer in momentum, you can see a clear gap. They have a 39% brand momentum with consumers versus Walmart's 49%. So despite similar resonance at the total level, Target is not converting that into growth at the same level. Now, when you break it down further, what you see here on the multicultural audiences is that Target really underperforms with Black consumers. They're barely above average, and they're also barely above average with white consumers as well. And they're only slightly above average when it comes to Hispanic bicultural consumers. That said, Target does perform decently well when it comes to generations, but generational strength isn't enough to drive growth anymore because growth is increasingly coming from culturally diverse audiences, not just age-based segments. So that's Target. Now, let's look at Kroger. If you remember, Kroger was one of the brands that was on the lower side of the quadrant, which effectively means they're falling out of touch. So 2 things stand out immediately when we look at Kroger. Momentum is significantly lower. They're at 27% momentum versus Walmart, which was at 49%, and they are below average across most multicultural segments. You can see the black line and the red lines versus the industry average light gray lines. This is especially true for acculturated Hispanics in the red line. And they're also underperforming from a generational lens, with their strongest weakness gap being Gen X. So unlike Target, which is uneven, Kroger isn't showing strength anywhere that can anchor growth. They're competing on presence and price, not preference. So when you take a step back, a clear pattern emerges. Walmart winning with broad, consistent resonance across all audiences, generational and multicultural. Target, they're close, but missing key growth segments, limiting momentum. And then here you have Kroger with no strength, falling behind on both resonance and growth. So the opportunities are pretty clear. If I'm Walmart, I need to strengthen and close the gap, I need to defend against competitors like Costco if I want to unlock incremental growth. For Target, my opportunity is trying to strengthen my play with multicultural audiences, especially Black and Hispanic consumers. And then for Kroger, I just need to win an audience and at least find one specific cultural audience that I'm going to be able to win with over time and build relevance and differentiate that way. And that is exactly where Collage comes in and helps. We already showed you how we're able to identify where a brand sits relative to competitors on brand cultural fluency. But beyond that, we have data that goes deep into the grocery store audience and buyers, identifying their key demographic audiences, as well as their beliefs and interest and passion points. These are all things that will shape how you need to message to them, as well as where do they actually browse and where do they consume media. So from a targeting perspective, where do you reach them most? And so if this looks interesting to you and you want to see exactly where your brand is overperforming or underperforming and the fastest path to closing these gaps, give us a call today.